Hello. Hi, hey y'all. Welcome. Apologies for the delay. A little hectic evening. Nonetheless, we're here and it's going to be a good conversation, so I'm looking forward to it. So with that said, happy Wednesday and welcome to the Becky Brown Girl Show. I'm your host, and tonight's discussion is going to be on navigating conflict within your interpersonal relationship. So not just your romantic relationships, but your relationships with family and friends, your professional relationships. I'm super excited because I have two guests joining me. One is my good girlfriend, sister friend, Honor Drew, and who has a lot of expertise in this topic and in her trainings, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. And then I also have Father Drew, otherwise known as Andrew Granum, who will be joining me a little bit later to share his own expertise on the topic. He's married a long time, a pastor educator, and again, I will intro him when I bring him on. But before I bring either of them on, I just kind of want to talk about why this is a topic that I thought would be of interest. So obviously we deal with a lot of conflict in our everyday lives. There's lots of larger conflicts going on globally, right? But in our own individual lives, we deal with them in different aspects of the relationships that we have. And one of the things that people define as really critical to the success of a relationship that you'll always hear them talk about, and I'm not a relationship expert, but it's communication, right? So the importance of being concise, clear, consistent in the way that you communicate with the different people that you engage on a regular basis will impact, I guess, the impactfulness, the effectiveness of those relationships. And so from my own personal experience, anecdotally, in a prior relationship I was in, I know, that's what I get for rushing. One of my former paramours, in a disagreement that we had, commented that I was more respectful, and I don't think respectful was the word he used, but basically I knew how to manage my temperament more with people who probably didn't mean anything to me in a professional setting, and why couldn't I translate that into my interaction with him? And basically I explained that, like, even though I'm being myself in that setting, it's a version of myself, right? I'm certainly not going to be as authentically myself there as I am in my intimate personal relationship with him. And I didn't understand why he couldn't just kind of accept me in totality, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm like, if you love me, then you love, again, when I get spicy, when I get feisty, I thought you loved me. Now in hindsight, looking, back at that situation, I understand more where he was coming from, and we're going to talk more about that a little bit later once I bring Honor on, kind of how you can translate skills that you apply in these other areas of your life into, some of your more intimate, close personal relationships to improve and lessen, ideally, the conflicts that you may have with those folks. But anyway, with all that said, I would like to bring on my good girlfriend. So I'm going to go ahead and add her, and I'm going to intro her as well. So just bear with me a moment. So hopefully she'll be on in a minute.
Hello.
Hello, my beauty.
Hi, y'all. Hey, Stacy. You look so beautiful.
That's you. So,
Oh,
I'm
what?
gonna go ahead and intro her, and we're gonna go from there. So, this lovely young lady, Miss Honor Drew, please put your IG in the chat for the folks. While I'm introducing you, is the CEO of Honor Vision LLC, a consulting firm that is a partner in unleashing transformative growth. They offer a wide range of services designed to empower individuals, organizations, and communities on their journey of transformation. Honor is a purposeful professional development trainer, creative coach, and consultant, overall a change catalyst. She and her company support you in honoring your vision, but besides all of those amazing things about her company, she's an incredible friend, my sister, from another mister. And she's beautiful inside and out. I just love her.
I love
Um,
you.
but now that,
Now the
now that,
intro's out the way,
yeah,
like hearing about yourself is just always weird to me. Or when people are like, you want to intro yourself? I'm like, yeah, I'm honored. All right, let's go. Thank you for reading my professional bio intro.
of course. Now, are you, you put your info in the chat?
Yeah, I put it in there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's in there. Thank you for
So,
reminding me.
like I started to say in my intro, and I apologize. I got home late from a day job, so so it was a little hectic getting started. But anyway, um, I talked about how, like, in a professional setting, right? You know how to conduct yourself, right?
Yes.
I mean, you're being paid to do a job.
Yeah.
So you know how to manage your emotions in that setting, because if you don't, then you won't last,
Yeah.
right?
There's
In most
consequences.
cases.
Absolutely.
Correct. Exactly. Consequences. That is a great point. I'm sure you'll talk about that in a minute. Um, but so I kind of wanted to, I wanted to hear more about the trainings that you're doing on this topic, and just kind of tools and tips that you want to share with the people about how they can translate some of these practices into their personal relationships, romantic,
All of them.
familial. They're all interpersonal, but they're more intimate
Yeah.
relationships with family,
Yeah.
friends, and lovers, and so on. So take it away.
Yeah. So I'm gonna answer your first question of like the type of trainings I do. I do all types. It's a wide variety, but when it comes to this topic itself, I do a lot of trainings on conflict resolution, communication, emotional intelligence, the fallacies, cognitive distortions, and maladaptive behaviors. And honestly, all of them are like interconnected in a way, right? And restorative practices, right? A lot of my clients, well, I would say, are adults that are working with youth who are teaching these tools and strategies to youth, right? You said earlier about like the differences of like if you're at a job and you're in a professional setting and maybe you may not be as angry or you may not, you have to respect them, right? You feel like you have to respect the person or whoever it is that you're working with, whether it's your boss or your colleague, and those skills not translating over to your relationships. And for me, that question that comes to mind is, do you respect that person? It feels like you have to respect them, right? Whoever it is in the
Right.
professional setting. But then why isn't that skill translating or transferring over to whoever you're in a relationship with, whether it's a friend? And I can even say there are people that are in friend relationships, they like platonic, and they still show that respect. But when you get into a romantic relationship, why does that respect not transfer over? Or those set of skills,
Right.
right? Because like you said
Hmm.
earlier, because I was here for the whole intro, it's like, accepting, of course, you want people to accept you for you. I want people to accept me completely for me. And at the same time, I mean, it's a two-way or however many way street. So how do we respect each other? What you say?
I said, no, it's not. No, it is.
Oh, you're hilarious. Oh my God. You know, it's all about me. But no, but seriously though, right? It's like, what's the disconnect? Why is it that, and I'm just asking it in general, right? Because I know we've had conversations like this in the past plenty of
Yep.
times, but what's the disconnect? Why aren't folks transferring those skills over? Right? Why is it compartmentalized in a way where it's like, oh, I know how to communicate effectively with my friends or with my family or with my boss, but when it comes to my partner, those skills I'm not intentionally using. Why does it stop
Um,
there?
I think, as you said earlier, I think is when I was speaking, it's consequences.
Yeah,
Not that there's no consequence for in the relationship, but it depends on whether there are conversations about boundaries.
that part.
So,
Ding, 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 ding,
and
ding,
by
ding.
the way, so in the situation I referenced earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was, a relationship I was in for a few years. And I think boundaries aren't necessarily, or discussion about boundaries doesn't necessarily come up in the beginning of a relationship. It may, it may,
It may,
right?
depends, right?
I think it comes up as lines get crossed. And then somebody might say, yeah, I'm not cool with that.
Yeah, I don't
But
roll that way. But when in
but a
fact
lot of
it should come up at the beginning when you're getting to know each other.
it should. But I think when it doesn't and time passes,
Ugh,
right? And now
yes.
you're in it, right?
Yeah.
And you feel like, well, this is just me. This is who I am. This is this was my prior approach, right?
Right.
Again, my attitude was like, well, you said you love me, so that means you love everything.
All
Even
these
if there's some parts about me that might annoy you,
right.
like he had annoying things about him too, but I'm like, but I
As
still
we
love
all
you
do.
anyway, right? Like we all do.
Yes.
But but I couldn't understand why he couldn't just accept like when I would turn up because as you know, my temperament is a bit on the spicy side,
I still love
the
you.
fire signs.
It's okay.
And but I think there was never like other than him saying like when it sort of initially was a thing where I would start turning
Right.
up, he's like, I don't communicate like that. Like, oh no, baby, what is you doing?
Yeah. And then yeah, and the boundaries. You're like, all right, let's talk about it. We're like, what's up? This is what I like, what I dislike. It does happen naturally most of the time when conflicts arise. But then when you start having those conversations, are you open and receptive to those boundaries?
Um, I think I probably wasn't initially.
Same.
I think because of the relationship I was in prior to that, the way we communicated was like it was always turn up time. Like we
Yeah.
both communicated like that in an argument. There were no rules of engagement. It's just I mean, there was no like
Right.
nothing physical, but it was just like whatever you felt to say was going to come out your mouth. The
So then let me ask this because
conversation.
the topic of tonight is conflict resolution, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So in moments of just, high passion, aggressiveness, whatever you want to call it, was there ever a resolution? Or did it just fizzle out? All right, y'all are done. Like even though that's how you all communicated, and even with the relationship that happened afterwards, what did you do to resolve conflicts?
That's part of the reason why that relationship ultimately,
Yeah.
went away because there wasn't an acknowledgement. Like for me, it's hard for me if I'm upset about something, really upset about
Right.
something, to hold on to that and not like
Yeah.
I don't have to unleash it, but it's hard for me not to talk about it in that moment. And if I'm really upset, then most likely the way I communicate about it is going to be like venomous. Now, yes. The thing is, as time has gone on, I'm hyper aware
Right.
of my temper, right? So I know sometimes I have to like walk away from a
Taking
situation, but sometimes people
a
don't want
break.
to walk away. They want to. Oh,
Yeah.
you know
Some
what?
people
If you
are
keep needling me,
provokers.
I'm explode on you. You asked for this, right? Like I posted a meme in like a post I made recently, and it said, "What that mouth do?" And I said, "Hurt your feelings, probably."
Oh, I did see
Exactly.
that.
Like, and I don't like that about myself. Like, I'm laughing and joking about it, but you know, if you're on the receiving end of that,
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, I used to be that way. I was that. I
yeah,
mean, and that was like a few years ago. Same, like what you were describing was that for me. And I'm like, well, why isn't this working? Oh, I mean, like, where's the self accountability?
that part. That's the part that that's the part that I wasn't like. I I, I dealt with my prior
Right.
relationship like that. Um, I just said, you know what? I can't. I don't want to be in this type of relationship. I don't want to communicate like this. It isn't effective.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't an effective way to communicate, but I was in that relationship a long time. So it was like unlearning that when I got with somebody else who was like,
And who
who
else knows
is
what
you
else you brought
talking
with you?
to?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. From
And I was like, I'm
before
talking to
then.
you. But
So it's interesting though, right? Because you get into, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation with codependency and all that. But like thinking about these cycles that we're in and thinking about like, what do we want our ultimate outcome to be? Right. So I would think, and there are some people that aren't like this. Some people want a negative and crazy outburst outcome. But I'm going to assume most folks want to have a positive outcome, right? That we met somewhere where there's a compromise, maybe not compromise, there's some resolution where we both agree to that, right? How
right.
do you get to that? So for me, what I learned over the years, it was all about how I responded and how I reacted. Well, actually, it's like, all right, that's a whole nother conversation, but how I responded to whatever that situation was.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I learned this equation. I don't know if you ever heard of it before. It's called E plus R equals O.
No.
E is the event. So it's a situation, it's a conversation, it's whatever it is you're dealing with. R represents how you respond, how you react.
Mm-hmm.
And then O represents the outcome. So you ultimately look at O, like, all right, do I want my outcome to be a positive one? Great. All right. It depends on how I react or respond to that event is going to matter, depending on what the outcome is going to be. So when I learned that and I started reflecting on it and then I started applying, I started to see what I was doing. So me responding versus reacting gave a completely different outcome to whatever the conversation was or the event was. When I reacted impulsively without considering the other person's thoughts or myself, my outcome was not a positive one or the one that I wanted. But when I responded with empathy and consideration, and with that positive outcome in mind, that positive outcome came. It was right in front of my face. So what happens was the mirror went right back to me.
Right.
Yes, the other person can be doing whatever. Okay, and they could be dead wrong, but what are you doing to improve the situation? What are you doing to actually take even one step towards resolving a conflict?
I
And those
think,
are the questions I have to ask. Like, we don't, like, do we reflect enough? I know you reflect after situations like that.
but the problem is reflecting after the fact, especially when, and I don't want to make it sound like, I mean, you know me, right? You know how I've evolved, but it's in me.
All,
Like the
all of it, right,
capacity to
though?
go, you've seen it.
And I love you. I love you regardless. But look, but that's a perfect example. You and I are friends.
I never
I've been
did that
around
to
you.
you.
Yeah, but I've all well, we
Have
had
I?
before, but yeah, but it was different because I don't. There's that whole thing of like the different type of relationships you have. It's like you respond differently for some reason. So for me, it's like why is we got to still like tackle that and get to the root cause of that. I would love to hear from people in regards to that, but why? Like I've seen it. I've seen how you react, and we talked about it afterwards.
Right.
And you knew in the moment you were impulsive. You weren't
Yes.
thoughtful. So it's like, all right, so the next time something like that happens, you know what the outcome is going to be if you react the same way.
I'm telling you, I literally feel like the Incredible Hulk sometimes. Like, I'm not even, okay.
She's not
So
lying.
let me take a step back. Like, I feel like,
But you said it. Take a
I
step
feel,
back.
I feel like, I, Are you looking at?
You are. You have the answers.
No, I feel like I feel like I need to walk away from a situation when I'm starting to have that, like, when I'm starting to have like a physiological,
Yeah.
like I can feel myself getting hot, like my ears are burning. Like if I really was the Incredible Hulk, I'd be turning green. I have to walk away from you. Leave me alone. Get away from me because I'm gonna say something that
That could
it
be
doesn't
hurtful.
matter if I take it back.
Yeah.
I just obliterated you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So leave me alone. Don't make
But
me
that
act
is one of the
angry. You wouldn't
strategies.
like me when I'm angry.
But Stacey, that is one of, and it's weird because we're putting you in this scenario. I mean, a lot of us are in this scenario. So when maybe we can take it away from you. But I like that we're using you. You're okay with that, right?
I'm okay.
And I am too. We can use me as an example. But like that is one of the strategies, is taking a break intentionally,
Right.
because you're able to reflect. It's all about the regulating your emotions, and some people don't have that that those strategies. They don't know how to do it. Some people don't even understand it.
Mm-mm.
Right, especially when you're in the moment of your emotions, of anger,
Right.
of being disappointed, of being sad, whatever that is.
Yep.
So for me, over the last few years, I noticed that I would start spiraling. Anytime I got angry, I would flip out. Just like you, I would call myself a mini Hulk too. It was at one point where I had holes in, not this house, my old apartment, I had holes in the wall because I'd punch, I would just be pissed. Just like I couldn't control my emotions. But then I learned some strategies, some techniques to be able to do that so that I wouldn't lash out on on people, because you really can't take those words back that are hurtful.
Mm-mm.
Right? Especially if you say that you care and love someone, you care about someone, you love them.
That's the part. That is the part, because those are the people who get it the worst.
It is.
And it makes no logical sense. But once again,
Yeah.
I'm being paid to do a job, right? So I can't
You can't lash
go
out.
up and work and start, cursing people out because I have to survive.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I do feel like, because there's a level of intimacy in the romantic and familial and
Yeah.
friendship relationships, but especially in the romantic relationships that you obviously do not have in your professional relationships, those people know you in a way that
Yeah.
I would assume that your colleagues would never know you. So they also know sometimes how to push your buttons. So sometimes they might be doing things purposefully.
Which sucks. And I would put it back to yourself. How do you respond or react to that?
Well, at a certain point, if I see that's sort of the pattern, in the same way that person was like trying to establish boundaries with me, that I initially was kind of like, you ain't going nowhere.
Right.
Like,
Right. But
like,
with someone doing that, they're not respecting your boundaries, if that is a known boundary for
well,
you.
that's what I was about to say, because it took me, I'm going to add you in just a moment, Father Drew.
Comment now, Father Drew. You about to get on here soon, so please, anything we're talking about, type it in.
Yeah, well, so I think I'm gonna have y'all together. But what was I saying?
The boundaries with pushing buttons.
Oh, so in the situation with him, it was, I think, at a certain point. Yes, I'm going to bring him on in a moment. Okay. um, for me, it took me a while to get to the point where I was like, okay, this is really a thing for him. I can't communicate with him like this. I have to, if something's bothering me,
Right.
I have to approach him conversationally. And but first I have to think, like, is this really that serious that I have to say something to him? Or can I let it go? And a lot of times I would be like, no, I feel some type of way and it's going to eat me up inside if I don't say
Feel
something.
like you have to say it.
So I would approach him conversationally, but it had gotten to the point where he was like, oh, what now? Like, here we go. So automatically off the
Energy.
top, he would say, you can talk to me about whatever, but when I would approach him, it was eye rolling, it was the sign, it was like the what now face, like not receptive to what I had to say. And then what he would do is, like, I'd say initially what I had to say, then he just start talking over me, like,
Mhm.
and not like kind of how we, interrupt here and there, but literally talking while I'm talking. If you want to send me to the moon, that'll do it, because you cannot hear what I'm saying when you're not listening. So then I would go from trying to talk to you to turn up Toya.
Yeah.
And when I did that, then he would lower his voice and be like, "But why are you yelling?" Oh my God.
See, see, when we're talking about this, that takes me to a whole nother conversation when it comes to argument fallacies, because there are so many ways and strategies or manipulative motives that people have, and sometimes they don't even know that they're doing it. But the argument of fallacies come into play when it comes to those pieces,
Yeah.
because what I just heard, I mean, I've been in those situations too, but it's a cycle that was repetitive over and over and over again in every argument that you had. That
Yes.
needs to be another topic of arguments.
Well,
That's
that's kind of like, again, I know it's a broad
it
topic.
is,
Conflicts happen in so many different areas,
but it
but
brings me back to communication,
yes.
right?
Yeah. I mean,
When, so let's say our argument's one thing, but there can be disagreements before it escalates to that. But when it comes to communication, how many times are people talking and they're responding to folks? They're not actively effectively listening. They're listening to respond instead of listening to understand. So they're, I mean, but for me, I feel like, isn't that a given? But no, people talk over each other all the time and don't listen well. But that is also something that needs to be talked about and worked through, and both parties have to be intentional with being open to willing to listen and to communicate effectively. I mean, I don't know, it's crazy, it sounds so simple, but I know it's very difficult for some folks.
it definitely sounds much simpler than it is.
Yeah.
And I also think that, to the point that you made about like what is the purpose of this argument? What is the end result that you were trying to achieve?
Yeah, what's the
Back in the
outcome?
day, I didn't have an end result. I was just like, I'm mad. Now I'm gonna unleash the
Right.
fury on you. I'm
Right.
gonna hit you with a barrage of insults. And okay, now I feel better. While the
Yes,
other person's like, what the F?
I'm physically beat up against the wall. From,
But now, um, and especially in a in a romantic relationship, like, I don't it's impossible to have longevity when you insist that you always have to be right. You
very
cannot,
true.
like, if your objective is always about being right and not about understanding or compromise or whatever, then, like, eventually somebody's going to get tired of having to concede all the time. and and yeah, maybe
Very
they'll
much
just
so.
let you have it, but, like, that's because they're secretly making their plan to exit.
True. I also think it's also about uh, knowing your person
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
understanding them, right?
Yeah.
So, for instance, I know my person is hypersensitive to certain things. It could be um, it could be rejection. It could be emotional sensitivity. It could be empathy sensitivity. Whatever that is. If I know this person and I'm aware of how they are, I am going to make sure that I'm aware, so I know what buttons not to push.
Right.
Right. So it's like if you know each other, then it's about. I mean, it goes back to boundaries again, but it really is about understanding your person and having empathy so that you know how to communicate with them, because you'll know, like, I know, for instance, my partner, once he gets to a 7 8, all right, I need to back off, but once he
Right.
gets to a 10, he needs space.
Right. Right.
Same thing with one of my family members. If they get to a 10, yeah, I'm gonna let you have
I'll
your space. I'll come back
head
once you
out.
cool down. Yeah. It's like what, like, what's the purpose of engaging with someone that's already up there? They're pissed. They can't regulate their emotions in that time. And that's okay. Because that's the
Right.
thing too. Like, it's okay that we have emotions and we get to a 10, but it's like, all right, does it make sense to keep communicating during that time? No. So for ones like me and you, we still want to talk because we want to talk. It's not going to be helpful or it's not going to be beneficial to either of us.
No, it's not at all.
There's so many things.
There's so many
Yes.
things.
You got to process. Because how many times have we been in something and we can't even think straight, and someone's still trying to have a conversation? Like, I can't talk about this anymore. I've reached my capacity, dog.
You know what? I've seen situations where and I don't know if you've been in a situation like this, but you're arguing for so long, it's like you almost forget what the point is.
Yes.
And by the way, and then the person that you're arguing with might actually make a valid point, and you be so like, I'm so mad, even though in the back of your mind you're like, but he does kind of have a point, but
Yes.
fuck that.
It's true. Father Drew said my wife is the one who wants to talk. Yeah, we gotta, because yes, you gotta bring him on because I'm curious, especially in his position, of what he counsels folks on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, you don't remember how you got, like, why are we arguing?
Exactly.
You know what I learned? This is something super funny, and I actually tried it, but not in a romantic relationship, but I will. I heard that in the middle of arguing.
All right.
Hi, Father Drew.
Greetings.
Lay down in the middle of the floor.
Wait, what? I'm sorry, Father Drew. I'm gonna introduce you in one moment.
Hi, Father Drew. Go ahead.
No, just finish what you said for a second.
Moment.
I didn't hear what you said. Just finish what you said for a second.
I was saying something that I saw and read, which I tried during a friend relationship, is in the middle of an argument, lay down on the floor, on your back.
So the person did it. Can be like, "What the F are you doing?"
The argument stopped.
You said you did it?
Lay straight down. I've never done it in a romantic relationship, but I was like, yeah, let me see if this works. It stopped it. Hi, Father Drew. You got the two Drews on.
Yes, you do. Okay, so let me just introduce him really quickly, officially.
Yes.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome Andrew Granum, aka Father Drew. Put your IG name in the chat, please. As I said, he's commonly referred to as Father Drew. He's a husband, a father, a pastor, an actor, an entrepreneur, and a podcaster. And the name of his podcast is No Filters Podcast. So put that in the chat as well. Oh, and I didn't mention earlier that Honor Drew is also a mama and a gilf. Isn't she's amazing. But anyway. So now that you've kind of heard what we've been discussing, I'd love to hear your take on
the G and GILF stands for what?
Grandma.
All right.
Yeah. You're an actor. I'm an actor too. So I didn't know that. That's super dope.
Yes,
you wear a lot of hats.
Yeah. I'm a Libra, so that's how it goes.
I love Libras. My son's a Libra. Go Libra. Come on.
Well, we fire. We them fire signs. I'm an Aries. And Honor is Sag.
Yes.
Birthday's coming up. But anywho. So if you would like to share with us from your perspective, wearing one of your many hats, you've been married a long time. You mentioned in a previous episode that you were on that you do some premarital counseling. What advice do you give based on your own situation, if you care to share, and then to these couples on, sort of the rules of engagement for addressing and resolving conflicts?
I mean, I was going to jump into your conversation.
Oh, please, you can do that too. Please do.
I am 43 years old. I've been married 17 years, right? I've been with my wife for most of my life at this point.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time, right? And what I realized is that, if you want to stay married, if you want to be married, if you want to be in a continuous relationship, then you gotta let yourself go. Like I'm a Christian, I'm a pastor. I have to die to self, often, because I have the big picture in mind, right? Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Perfect, clear.
I have you got to have the big picture in mind. So it's whether you're in a romantic relationship, whether you're in a business relationship, at the end of the day, it's okay. What are we trying to achieve here, right? Like if I argue with my business partner, we're not dissolving the business because of every argument, because of every disagreement, because of every conflict, right? We're going to figure out a way to make it work and to move forward. And it's the same thing in marriage. Like, all right, divorce is not the option,
Right.
especially because of a disagreement, right? So we got to figure out how to make it work. We got to see the big picture, and I have to do whatever it is that I have to do, the work that I have to do to myself in order to keep this thing going. Because I was taking some notes. You said the mirror goes back to you, right? Like at the end of the day, you can control you. I can't control her, but I can control me. So whatever I know that whatever variables or whatever ingredients I add to this recipe is either going to be positive or negative. So I have to make sure that the ingredients that I add are positive.
Yes.
And it's even when we disagree. Like,
You wait, hold that thought for one second. I'm not sure which of your mics it is, but I kind of hear a little feedback.
So it's probably mine. Let me put my AirPods in.
Okay, or maybe if you just turn the volume down a little bit, or if you're like really close to it. I don't know how it sounds to the people who are watching. Maybe y'all can chime in to
is that better?
Testing. Go ahead, say some more stuff.
Testing.
It sounded, he's delayed now.
Oh, because I can hear him.
You can hear me?
Take it off.
Yeah. It wasn't, Raquel, they said sounds good.
Okay. Say less. All right. So,
Someone
go
asked
ahead.
the question though, which was awesome about, you elaborating, expounding on what you meant by let yourself go.
I have to put my feelings to the side. Like I'm a man, right? And I used to have a temper growing up, and I deal with men a certain way, right? That I can't deal with a woman. Like I've never put my hands on a woman in any type of way. I've never been aggressive in that way. That's just how I was raised. But I could go there quick with a dude, right? And so in the heat of the moment, like I know, like naturally, my weapon is not my words. My weapon is physical, right? So I have to realize that all right, I can't take myself to a place that I can go. I have to fall back, even if it's in the heat of the moment and I feel my blood pressure rising, and the blood pressure medication I took in the morning is not working in that moment, then I have to back off, right? Because at the end of the day, I have to make sure that when we go to sleep, I'm going to be able to sleep in the bed with her. I'm going to be able to have a conversation in the morning.
Absolutely.
There's not going to be any holes in my walls, right? Like I can't do that because then I have to fix them. And she's going to point them out if they're there, right? And so I have to fall back.
Yeah.
Like I got to fall back. And it's not about not being an alpha. It's not about being weak. It's just about understanding that and knowing what she can take, what she can handle in terms of aggression from me. I can't go further than what I know she can take.
Yeah. Knowing your person.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, if you don't mind sharing, is her temperament more like, because people tend to say that women are more emotional. I mean, I think we all have the capacity to be emotional. Obviously, we're all human, right? I think men are socialized that they can't express certain types of emotion because it makes, to your point, it makes them appear weaker or, not as manly or whatever. So in their frustration or sadness or whatever, it can often just come out as anger.
Mhm.
And so I'm just curious, like I was saying earlier, about my natural temperament is like I have a short temper. So I have to actively work against that
Mm-hmm.
to not respond in an inappropriate way
Right.
to a situation that doesn't warrant that type of response.
Yeah.
Right.
Like at some point I think that might be a necessary response, but it's not, it's far less than me responding
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to understand, I guess, what would you consider? Oh wait, you just kind of said you were more aggressive growing up.
Yeah. Well, I said growing up, but I have 3 sons, right?
Hmm.
My aggressive tendencies come out with them,
Okay.
Mm.
right? Like I go to 0 to 100 a little too quick with my boys
Mm-hmm.
because they're boys. If I had a daughter, I might be a little softer, but I don't. I got 3 sons in the house. It's like Animal Planet in here, right? They all trying to be the alpha, and the alpha is me. And my wife, it's a blessing that she's not an aggressive type.
Mm.
She's not yelling. She's not screaming. She takes her time. She's patient. Like my wife is the bomb. Like
Oh, she's beautiful. I mean,
like my wife.
obviously I don't know her, but
Yeah, yeah,
you guys look good
yeah.
together.
My wife is all that, but none of us are perfect, right? But she likes to talk. Like she'll talk and she'll hold it in until it's a captive audience,
Mm.
right? And sometimes that's not the ideal time for me. You know what I mean? When she goes to bed and she feels the need to unleash everything, and I have to learn to understand that. Like,
Right.
all right, she's not coming at me, like she's just releasing her day
Right.
at this time. You know what I mean? And if I don't have the wherewithal to understand and the emotional intelligence to understand, like, all right, she's not coming at me. She's just releasing her frustrations or whatever it is in this moment. If I misunderstand that, then I'm going to take it personally, right? And then I'm going to react. And I've had to learn to take time to not react, to not respond, but to just listen. And I don't always get it right, but when I remember, like, all right, this is not that, then it changes, my response.
Right.
I'm sorry, Honor. I want you to chime in. I just really quickly, there
Just
was
have a
something
question.
you said I wanted to comment on, which was shit. I just lost
I'm
my train of thought.
sorry. That's probably me.
No, 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 no. It's
Was
okay.
it
It's
about
okay.
the
It's gonna come
It's
back to me.
captive
It's gonna come back to me.
audience, or
No, no, no. It was oh, the
there.
point
It
that
is.
like, because and again, I don't like to like overgeneralize, but the stereotype is that men necessarily aren't necessarily as like talkative, right? Women like to talk a lot, and then men be like, oh god, like what now, even if it's not about something, like again, like she's
yeah,
coming at you.
yeah,
And so um but
Nope, they don't.
because just because a woman wants to talk, then the man is taking it like oh god, like leave me alone, like I'm just trying to communicate with you. This is like, this is important. It's important because if she's keeping that inside and something really is going on and you don't have any idea, then when she goes off, you're not going to understand where it's coming
yeah,
from.
Right.
But every conversation is not like I'm coming
yeah,
at you.
Right.
But I think that's how, in a man's mind, or in some men's mind, that's how they receive it.
But
yeah,
And
wouldn't it get to that point? Like once it's at that point, isn't that because there hasn't been communication? If you've already built it up to a point where it's like that tension is there. Like I know you're explaining right now, it's like anytime that you're about to have a conversation, it's like, oh, this is going to be an argument. It's going to be a thing. You're already predicting what it's going to be, and that negative energy just exists, and you didn't even get a chance to talk it out. So it's like you never even get to the point of communicating at all.
Yep.
So it's like, I mean, that's a major issue. You both have to be on the same page to even be able to communicate. But like, how, for one, how do you prevent that? So it's kind of connected to what I was going to ask both of you, right? Because you were talking about responding and reacting, but it's like you knowing your person or knowing the situation that you're going to be communicating with, or you have a conflict with. How do you proactively like anticipate what you're going to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, in your intentions moving forward.
So this is what I try to do, right? And we've had conversations, and
Yes,
what we've talked about is, all right, look, when I'm in bed, I can't go anywhere. Once I lay down and go to sleep, like I don't have an outlet after that, right? Like there's nowhere for me to release after that. So try and talk to me during the day, right? I'll be more receptive because I know that I'm not captive. Like I can go to the gym, yeah, I mean, after a hard conversation. I can go to my office and do something. But what I try and do, and it's difficult now because, we both work from home. She's, she is high up at her job. She has lots of people under her, and so she's in meetings all day. But I try and have conversations during the day. Like and I'm a guy, so I'm not really a big talker, right? But I'll ask how she's doing, ask if everything's all right, if she needs anything. Like I'll try and make sure that I check in during the day and create openings for conversations, just so that I don't have to have them later on at night, right?
And be held captive.
Right? It's difficult. Like I don't want to. Once I
Not
go
a
to
good
sleep, I
time.
want to go to sleep. Yeah.
Right.
Is she watching you now?
Say it again.
Is she watching you now?
She might be. I didn't check to see who's on it. But she very well might be. I might have to have a conversation about this tonight.
But you said it though, because that's one of the strategies. Both parties or all parties knowing the time and place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Tact,
Indeed.
tone, and timing.
Yes, and tone.
Wait, what was that? Say it again.
Tact, tone, and timing. The 3 T's.
Tact, tone, and yo, that tone though, I used to have a major problem with that. Yeah. And I was a hypocrite because I would say things in a certain way that just weren't respectful. And then as soon as somebody said it to me, I'm like, who the fuck you talking to? Yeah. Like, what? But it's true. Delivery is everything.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because that's, for sure. I hope y'all are taking notes. Y'all who are watching, right, for later. But that's definitely something that I've been, that I've been accused of. And I'm like, ain't nothing wrong with my tone. Stop acting like a little bitch. Remember the point I made about like hypersensitivity? Mm-hmm. So I before we got on, Honor and I were kind of chatting about what we wanted to cover, just like I did with you. And I wanted to I'll get both of your take on hypersensitivity, because while I certainly expect somebody to be sensitive to my feelings and have some compassion and whatever, I need to be willing to reciprocate that in return. I think I can be empathetic to a point, but I struggle with dealing with somebody who, from my perspective, doesn't know how to regulate their emotions at all. The audacity, right? No. But I'm saying,
double
like,
standard. Mirror. Where's the mirror?
I have to laugh at myself for that, because I was a little bit.
Do.
That was pretty audacious. But anyway, but as far as like, I guess feeling like okay, let's say if you're going through a hard time, right? And you talk to someone about whatever it is that they're dealing with. Now, there's levels. Obviously, I'm not talking about like extreme circumstances like, death or like or something that could really pull you into a really dark and abysmal place. I'm talking about like kind of everyday stuff that you might go through. You might feel a little bit down or whatever. You give the person a pep talk, you try to give them some encouraging words, and then I'm like, all right, how we gonna get up out of this? And you're not getting up out of it. Now I don't want to keep hearing about it.
Yo,
And like, am I being insensitive? Is that hypersensitivity, or am I not being sensitive
it's
enough? Like, I
subjective.
don't know.
Hypersensitivity is subjective.
It is. I mean,
I
because
don't know.
it's sensitivity to something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to say all of us, I don't want to generalize, but a lot of folks have some kind of sensitivity to something.
Yeah.
And it is willing to what you'll accept. I mean, you've said some of your sensitivities on here since we've been on.
Have I? I
Yeah.
just talked about, I'm like the
We all
lady of
got
rage.
something.
That's why I use that song.
Because
People think I'm crazy. Like, God damn.
because you
But
don't know when you talk to your partner, you don't know exactly what's going to trigger what.
oh, I'm so glad you said that, Father Drew. Can we come back to trigger once you finish your thought?
I mean, that is my thought. Like, you don't when you're talking, you don't know what the trigger is. You know what I mean? It's you're walking through a minefield. And often what happens, and y'all touched on it earlier, is that you go the argument or the discussion or the conflict, it branches off into other things because a trigger gets touched, a trigger gets pulled. So now you're talking about something that you didn't even start with, and now you're 3 branches off from where you began, just because of triggers. And so what I like to do is I like to find ways to trigger proof my conversations.
No, that's
like
real.
Yeah.
Because you have to know your partners, or, well, if it's my partner, my romantic partner, I would like to know your triggers.
Yeah. Like I send a lot of videos to people. I send reels. I used to on my page. If you scroll down, my mom passed earlier this year, so I haven't posted as much. Yeah, but before that, like if you scroll down my page, it's all funny videos, right? And I would send, I send videos to my friends and the different people. I don't send some videos to my wife because there's a possibility that something in that video might trigger something.
Because you know her triggers.
Because I know her triggers based on our history, right? Like I think I'm a good guy, but I'm not a perfect guy, right? And so I know our history, and so I know what may be funny to me, what may be funny to other people, but she may see something deeper in it, and it might be a trigger. And so I'll refrain, even in in finding humor. Like I'll refrain. So in arguments, it's the same thing. Especially like I'm trying to stay away from certain subjects.
So then you would say you have rules of engagement. And Honor, I'd like to hear from you on this as well. Like when you talk about conflict resolution, then there's obviously strategies or methods that you would recommend people employ. I know we talked about kind of just walking away before you like, and allowing your temperature to lower before you re-engage the person. But like, are there other strategies that you might recommend as kind of a rule of engagement in a conflict?
I mean, there's so many. We actually went down like a list without even knowing it. Sometimes we just don't know the terms to some of the stuff, right? But with number one, of course, we've been saying over and over again, is effective communication, right? And if we're talking about interpersonal relationships, like in general, or are we talking about romantic relationships?
Well, I know you do it professionally. So, and again, we talked about how some of the things that you do in a professional setting can
It
potentially translate to, you know, your personal, intimate relationships as well?
So it's funny because a lot of the trainings, some of the trainings I do are focused youth development trainings, right? So it's adults working with youth. And we're teaching these kids how to do like peace paths and restorative practices and circles and, you know, group agreements and norms and all of that. And it works. You see, it works because you've established these boundaries and these strategies that, you know, you've implemented them. And for some reason, we kind of just let it go. It's like, why not implement, like, why aren't we implementing that in our adult relationships? I was lucky enough to work in multiple organizations where us as adults, we implemented the exact same strategies. We had group norms, we had group agreements, we even had a list of consequences in case we went after it. We had boundaries. Everyone knew each other's boundaries. We created our own conflict resolution peace path walk. If there was a conflict, it wasn't, hey, if I'm pissed off, I'm gonna go straight to you, to my boss or your boss. It was about self accountability, right? So I had this issue where I was doing that at work, I was doing it with my friends, and I wasn't implementing it with my partner. Once I brought those things over, first I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's not gonna work. But we have our own group norms and our own group agreements. I want to point out that someone said that some folks don't know their triggers. And that's a very good point. I didn't know my triggers until 2 years ago, right? So hopefully, one of the things as an individual is important to heal and understand your triggers and your trauma. But that's a whole nother conversation.
That's this
Go to
conversation.
therapy. Go to therapy, people.
Listen,
there's all types.
I don't want to cut you off. I'm
No,
gonna make a point after you make your point. No, I'll make a point after you make your
Why
point.
did I say one of the reasons why I said triggers, because one of the things I started implementing was I knew my triggers and I communicated what my triggers were, right? I made it a point to really understand whoever it is that I'm in a relationship with, whether it's a friend, a colleague, or my partner. It's like, okay, I know this person reacts this way. I know this person may have OCD or ADHD, or I know this triggers them. So it's like, I really was intentional about getting to know whoever it is that I'm interacting with. And applying that E plus R equals O. How am I responding? So the reacting versus the responding versus being proactive. So I started anticipating ways that I would respond proactively to situations. Now, can you do that for everything? No. Sometimes you're just in the moment, but it's all about thinking and being intentional and applying it. But that's a whole nother conversation about how you self-regulate with emotions.
But,
right?
Yeah.
Were you along that lines, Father Drew? Because it looks like you want to jump in.
It's about self-regulation, and you said some people don't know their own triggers. One of my, I do weddings.
What do you mean by you do weddings?
Say it again.
What do you mean by you do weddings? Like you?
I'm a pastor.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes. You like officiate things?
Yeah.
Wait, Father Drew, really quickly. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What was the third T?
Tact,
tone,
and timing.
I need time. Okay.
3 T's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'm a pastor. I officiate weddings, and I do premarital counseling. After I think about 13, 15 years in, maybe 13 years, I decided that one of my prerequisites for marrying couples is that you have to go to counseling. You have to go to therapy. Individual.
Mm-hmm.
Because think of yourself. Think of how you were when you were 20. Right? You're not the same person that you are right now. Right? And what I've realized over 17 years of marriage, 23, 24 years of being together is that I changed. Is that our relationship changed. I noticed that she changed, but what I hadn't realized is how I was changing as well. Right. And so, you're trying to navigate a relationship. You're trying to navigate how she's changing. You're thinking about her, and you're not realizing that you're changing as well. And you really don't come to grips with that, right? And so the reason my prerequisite is that you go to therapy is because you have to find out some things about yourself that you don't currently know. But it's going to come out
in your relationship. That's where it comes out.
Because your partner's going to see it. Your partner's going to see the parts of you that you can't see.
Yes.
they have a 24-hour, 360-degree view of you, and they see all of you. They see how you act like your mama, how you act like your dad. They see all the family similarities and the different things that you don't even recognize about yourself. And as we age, we become deeper versions of ourselves, right? And so I feel like it's critically important to take the time to all right, let me get to know who I am. We never really take that time to find out who we are, to find out the things that will trigger us, that could trigger us, because we've never taken the time to do some self-discovery and deep dive into our own psyches and conscious, to see what triggers us. Like, all right, like what are the things that I dealt with that I don't think about, or that I've set aside subconsciously.
Yeah,
because it's going
things that you
to
don't
come
know.
out, that you don't know.
Yeah,
exactly.
You don't know it, but it's going to come out.
Yeah,
and your partner is going to be dealing with it, and you'll be in denial.
That part.
Yes.
That part. Because like Stacey, you said it earlier, like the whole cycle, and it goes hand in hand with what we're talking about. It's the whole attachment. Like we talked about this before, like the avoidant versus the anxiety, that whole loop of doom. And you said it too, Father Drew. It's the triggering. You're just like, your traumas come out in relationships. That's like some evidence to that. I can't say all the numbers, but you just trigger each other if you're both, you both have traumas, and then you get into this loop of doom of codependency. And don't let it be a perfect mix of you being an avoidant attachment and anxiety attachment, because then what? Like, it just keeps going, keep triggering each other, and
exactly.
What?
Yep. You're literally like on a hamster wheel of like the anxiety person is chasing, the avoidant, and ask me how I know.
Anxious, that's what it is. Anxious, yes,
Yes. So, I'm gonna say once again, therapy. Just like Father Drew said, just like Honor said, therapy is the shiznit. So I understand it's not accessible necessarily. It's expensive, for sure. But if you are able to talk to a therapist, at any point, it's helpful to better understand yourself.
Yes.
I hate these like buzzwords, even though trigger is really a thing, right? I hate it. But it really is useful information to have, because I mean, I don't think that people should be walking around on eggshells around you, right? We have to learn how to manage our own triggers. So while you, to the point that you made about knowing, because you've been with your wife for so long, that the things that could potentially trigger her, so you try to avoid them. At the same time, we can't expect people to kind of like, we're not made of glass, right? So we have to learn how to manage and regulate our own emotional response, like Honor said, to the things that will typically trigger us, because everything that other people do isn't always about us, but we like take it personally all the time. I mean, sometimes if it's directed directly at you, it probably is. But if it isn't, then you can't expect people, like, we live in a hypersensitive society. I'm going back to hypersensitivity again. So we can't yes, we try to be aware and not like intentionally and purposefully hurt somebody, but everything you do has a potential to offend or hurt or whatever. That's probably where the thought process about the hypersensitivity came from, because it does get to be annoying. Like, come on, man. It's not,
like, what can I do?
Can I
breathe?
Exactly. Exactly.
So I just want to be inclusive here, because, and just from experience from folks I've worked with, on a personal, professional level, when it comes to therapy, because sometimes therapy is a trigger for folks. And I know folks personally and professionally where traditional talk therapy may not work for them. But just to put out there are all types of therapy. Not just you talking to this person in front of you, and spilling your heart out. there's so many varieties, so many ways to modify, and so many ways to heal and understand your triggers outside of just talking to someone. So I just wanted to say that, because I know folks who are triggered by talk therapy.
Yeah.
And also, that is a fair point. Thank you for mentioning that. And so I know we talked about a lot, and we kind of, because I feel like this main topic can branch off into so many different areas, obviously. So maybe we can do a part 2 at some point.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, we
I don't.
should. I would like to know what is, because the topic was conflict resolution, and Stacey, I know you're trying to wrap it up. I would just like to know, like, and it's a question for you, both of you, and anyone in the audience, of like, what is your top, I guess, strategy to use when it comes to conflict resolution or making peace with someone? Like, do you have a go-to?
Father Drew, you start.
So I read Sarah Jakes' book, T.D. Jakes' daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. I can't recall the name of her book at the moment. And she talked about her background, the experiences that she had. And for the first time, it almost hit me like a rock. Like I was able to really recognize that she was coming from her own perspective, right? In this book. And it gave me the understanding that my wife, and she's been through some stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it gave me the understanding that my wife has been through some stuff, even with me.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a real, true perspective that is different than mine. Like her experience is not my experience.
Right.
Like her globe revolves around her. And when I realized that, it let me know, like, man, like she's really a person. Like she's an individual, completely separate from me. Even though we've been together so long,
Right.
like we're not a duo. Like she's an individual. And in recognizing that, I realized, like, all right, she's a person. She has her own experiences. She has her perspective that's real, that's true to her.
Right.
And that's not my perspective. And as we communicate, I have to realize that I'm talking to someone who has feelings, has a perspective, has an experience that I may not understand, but I have to accept and I have to appreciate, right? And so I have to understand her perspective and realize that even if I don't agree with it, that's how she feels. That's because that's who she is.
Right.
And when I take the time to do that, because it's something that you have to do intentionally. It's not something that'll come automatically. You have to intentionally take the time to try and understand your partner's perspective, to really give them grace to feel how they feel, to say what's on their mind, to experience life on their own terms, even if it's not on the same page as you are.
Yeah.
Right. And it's really about giving your partner grace. Like once you communicate from that perspective and on that level, then the conversation is different. It's not about our world. It's about, okay, this is your world. This is what you've experienced. This is what you've gone through. This is what I've done to you, and this is how you feel as a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't negate that. I can't minimize your feelings. I have to take it as what you communicate to me.
Indeed.
I don't even know what more needs to be said after that.
I'm a good dude. Say no,
terms,
I'm not.
You better say it. And then you saying
in terms of like how I
not Derek Jackson.
How
I don't want to be. So that's why I'm not out there preaching and talking about all this stuff.
Oh, I get it now. I was like, who?
Yeah, I missed that. I missed it. Wait, let me see. What does it say? No, but in terms of like how I try to resolve conflict, I'm still trying to figure out the best approach. I think empathy, which I have in certain circumstances more than others.
Right.
Because I can also be impatient, but I'm impatient because, well, not that there's a reason to be impatient. Uh, I'm impatient because I remember doing like a behavioral assessment once when I used to do sales, and it was trying to get you to understand like the best approach to engaging with a potential customer, or like to persuade them or whatever. So it talked about kind of mirroring their behavioral style.
Yeah.
So when I did the assessment, I was a director relator, meaning the relator side of me wants to like make you feel comfortable and like find a something in you that we connect on, like something that's similar. The director part of me is like, get to the effing point.
It's like communication style too.
And then I'm like, all right, get to the point.
Right.
Therefore, if you're like going through something, right, I have empathy to a point, like I said. Now, it depends on who you're talking about. My capacity for empathy for certain people is much more than others. And it also depends on what you're dealing with, right? But just sort of the everyday mundane, I'm like, all right, let's have our pity party because I'd like to have them too.
Right.
But we can't just kind of go on in this space. Like, what's going to be the resolution to this? That's where the director component comes in. Yeah. So empathy with some limit. And I'm not always the best listener. It's something I'm working on. I'll be talking. But I want to be listened to. So right. If I expect that from somebody else, then I have to reciprocate, right? So these are all things that I strive to improve upon, and to try to like calm the Incredible Hulk inside of me when I feel my temperature rising. Like sometimes it's gonna come out. I'm sorry, but I understand every situation does not warrant that type of response. And I don't like it when I don't like people reacting like that to me. And just really quickly, I had an experience recently. This is probably where the idea came up in the first place. I had an experience recently with a guy that was interested in me. I was interested in him. And he's an Aries too, like me.
My son is an Aries.
No Aries. Sorry.
Y'all wake up with an attitude. I don't know what it is.
Man, I'm telling you, like when he was cool, but it was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And nope, absolutely not. And but that's like how I am sometimes. And I'm like, ew. Like, who wants to deal with that? I know I don't, so then I can't turn around and act a fool.
Yeah. Take me as I am.
Anyway. But yeah, so that's kind of my,
That's a good answer. But all those are great.
But and now how about you, young lady?
You said one of mine and you explained it amazingly, so I won't say that again. My first one would be empathy. And then I would say the next one that I go to immediately is emotional regulation. I know it's all about how me being in the moment. If I know I'm super, super upset, I make sure that I'm super self-aware, and then I calm myself down so that I can lead by example, so I can be more understanding and empathetic to my partner who may not be able to do that like me. And that has helped. And I've applied it, I've implemented it, and it's working. So that's my go-to, because I don't like turning into She-Hulk anymore.
Do you find that the person sort of, to the point I was making earlier, do you find that they then mirror your response?
That's what naturally happens. But I know them though too. So instead of me wanting and forcing someone to talk, this may not be the best time or space, and they also may need that space. So
Yeah.
it's like applying all these things at once. But I mean, the more you do it, you have, like Father Drew said, you have to be intentional. The more you do it, it starts to become a natural habit where you won't even have to think about it with anything.
Yep.
Right?
I love it. Thank you both so much. I appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
I know, like I said, I had been thinking about this topic, but sometimes I'll get an idea and it seems too broad because we only have but so much time.
Yeah.
But I appreciate both of you tremendously.
Thank you for
All the
having me.
tone,
Yes.
tact, and what was it? And
Timing.
timing. I put in the chat, and
You
then
did.
I took screenshot. And then Honor, it was
E plus R
ERO.
equals O. Oh, sorry.
No. Say it again.
E plus R equals O.
And it stands for again?
E stands for the event. R stands for the way you respond or react. And O stands for outcome. So it's however you respond to the event is what your outcome is going to be. And it's your choice.
E plus R equals O.
E plus R equals O.
I screenshot that one too.
And
I'm
borrowing the 3 T's, Father Drew. Okay.
My mama gave me that. You got it.
Hey.
Thanks, Mom.
Come on, mama. I love it.
So again, thank you both.
Thank you.
Y'all
Awesome
who are still in the house, make sure you go follow both of these amazing folks. And yeah, so you can both see yourself out. Good night.
It's so nice to meet you, Father Drew.
You as well.
Yeah, it was really, really good to remember. Make sure I follow you, Stacey. Amazing hosting, per usual.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
Thank y'all. Have a good night.
Hold on, I might do another part to this. So be on the lookout for my
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Make it happen. See y'all. Good night. Bye, Raquel. Bye, Ty. Bye, Tim. Okay, let me leave before Stacey. My bad, y'all. I'm still here. All right, I'll leave it. I'm leaving for real. Okay, see y'all later. Bye.
Okay. So again, thank y'all for hanging out for an extended live, and I think it was a good conversation. Hopefully, y'all learned something. I know I did. So 2 things before I go. The live will be available on my YouTube channel, Becky Brown Girl. So please go like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. Appreciate your support. And the final thing is, I'm still in that Fab 40 contest, so I'm gonna share the link again. Please vote for me, because this is the last round before they do, like, I think the final. So I gotta like get a little higher up in the rank in order for me to advance to the next round. I need y'all help, please. It's 40 G's, and I'll definitely throw y'all a couple dollars if you help a sister out. So anyway, thank y'all for coming out. God bless you. Good night. I will see you next pre-Thanksgiving Wednesday. Peace, 2 fingers.